What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I wanted to go over a few bits of information that have been released about Battlefield 6 over the past several days. I know I am a little bit late covering these, but that's because I was focused on more important things like breaking down the new gameplay that we got from content creators over the past couple days, including a before and after look of a bunch of gameplay changes that have already taken place since the beta. But with this information, we did get some more clarification on crossplay and how that works, and it doesn't actually work the way they initially described it, and I reported on that a few days back. And then on top of that, they also talked a little bit about how they've changed aim assist for Battlefield 6. So without further ado, let's dive right into this, and let's first talk about that crossplay topic. A few days ago, based on an interview, I reported that console-only crossplay will exist in Battlefield 6, and the way the devs described it in that initial interview is if you had crossplay turned on, which was the default setting, then you would play with and against all platforms. However, if you're a console player and you turn crossplay off, it would go into a console-only crossplay mode. So if you're on PlayStation, for instance, and turn crossplay off, they said it would just eliminate the PC players from your lobbies, and you would play against PlayStation as well as Xbox players. It turns out we got some clarification on this. Apparently the dev misspoke on this, and this isn't how it's going to be working. Instead, the way crossplay will work in Battlefield 6, and I believe this is the way it worked in the beta as well, is if you have crossplay on and you are a console player, it will prioritize trying to find a match with other console players. And if it can't find a match or it can't fill spots in a reasonable amount of time, it may fill the lobby with some PC players as well. So it's trying to do console only, but it's not a guarantee by any means that you'll be console only. Whereas if you turn crossplay off, it will limit you to that platform only. So if I'm on PlayStation and I turn crossplay off, I will only be able to match with other PlayStation players, not Xbox players. And personally, I find that to be somewhat disappointing news. I was actually really excited about the initial report that turning crossplay off puts you into a console-only crossplay state, so you would still get a fairly large player pool, and you could just ensure that it was only consoles versus consoles. But now it does seem like it's probably going to be a little too limiting by turning crossplay off and locking it to that platform only. I'm sure within the launch window there will be more than enough players to be able to find lobbies with that crossplay setting off, but thinking down the road and with how many players you need to fill up a lobby, it's not likely going to be super easy to find full lobbies of just PlayStation players, for instance, within a reasonable amount of time and a reasonable connection without potentially having to fill that lobby up with bots. Obviously, time will have to tell on that, but a little bit disappointed to see that clarification. And my hope is they saw the positive response when they initially incorrectly announced it would be console-only crossplay, and perhaps that is something they could add down the road, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. Now let's get into the next topic, and this was talking a little bit about their aim assist in Battlefield 6, and how it's changed compared to Battlefield 2042, for instance. Now, I have seen some people reporting on this as if they've changed this from beta till launch. However, after reading the interview where they're talking about this, I don't see any indication that that's the case, so I don't think aim assist is changing from what we experienced in the beta. Instead, what they're describing is the changes they've made compared to the most recent Battlefield game. And this is all coming from an interview that was done with wellplayed.com, which I will of course leave a link down below if you want to check out the entire interview. But with this, in regards to aim assist, the devs said they want to have a fair, competitive, and balanced approach, and they call their aim assist in Battlefield 6 Aim Assist 2.0. He goes on to say it's an evolution of what we had in 2042. We're talking real-time renders now. We moved away from squares, boxes, and spheres to capsule-oriented meshes for aim assist. We've really upped the consistency and performance across the board. We're going very light with aim assist. We're not adding rotational aim assist. And we actually removed snap zoom, which was in 2042. As we believed it was too mechanically heavy, we want to humanize aim assist, as we call it here internally. So a little bit to unpack there. The removal of snap aim assist is something they've already talked about in the past, even though there was a setting in the beta build of the game for your snap zoom aim assist, which is the aim assist style where if you aim down sight near an enemy, it will help you snap toward that enemy. We already knew that wasn't active in the beta, and that setting was just sort of like left over. It will likely be eliminated for the full build of the game. But either way, turning that up or down actually did nothing. However, more interestingly here, he said they're not adding rotational aim assist. And for those that don't know, rotational aim assist, at least in Call of Duty terms, means as long as you're moving your feet, you don't even have to touch your aiming analog stick, the right analog stick. As long as you're just moving your feet with the left stick, aim assist will grab toward enemy players and rotate your character to track them, at least to a degree, without you ever having to touch your aiming stick, which would normally be required to rotate your character model. So Battlefield 6 doesn't have that, and that was clear in the beta. However, there is still a form of what many would call rotational aim assist. It's a little bit different than that style of rotational aim assist. And we see this in some clips compiled by Hexsmith, who really specializes in testing aim assist in games. So I'm just going to defer to him when it comes to this, and he did some testing throughout the beta. And we can see the game will help you rotate toward enemy targets, but it looks like this only happens if you have right stick input, not left stick input. So unlike Call of Duty, where you just have to move your feet, now you have to actually be trying to aim at the target, and if you do so, it will still help and give you some guidance and some rotation to help you track that target. Now, it's pretty clear in these clips that it's not super strong. There's definitely a little bit of a tug with that, but it's not grabbing nearly as hard as a rotational aim assist does in Call of Duty. And I think pretty much any experienced controller player that played in the beta knew full well that the aim assist wasn't nearly as strong as Call of Duty's aim assist. Personally, I thought it was in quite a good spot. I felt quite comfortable once I dialed in all of the ridiculously convoluted settings that they have for controller. Obviously, I knew it wasn't as strong as Call of Duty's aim assist, but it was there, it was helping. I could feel it assisting me with my aim to a degree, but it didn't feel like it was really taking over or anything, and I definitely felt like I had to be more locked in than I would have to be in Call of Duty to maintain decent aim in gunfights. Also, I have said this before, but since we're on the topic of aim assist, I like the fact that they finally got rid of snap zoom aim assist. I really don't like that style of aim assist in multiplayer video games because it just feels very unnatural and it feels like it just takes over a bit too much. And I also find myself overcompensating with snap zoom as well, because with that, it's not like the aim assist is just slowing down your sensitivity and helping you more precisely get onto target. Instead, it's literally snapping to the target for you. So then when you're also making that movement with your analog stick to try to get onto target, and then that snap suddenly happens, then I often found that I was overcorrecting with that, and it just felt really awkward and unnatural. So removing that, I think, really goes along with what they said here, which is humanizing aim assist, where it still feels like it's giving you a helping hand, but you've got to be the one putting the work in to make that happen. Now, it turns out that's not all they talked about here when it comes to aim assist. They also went a little bit deeper into what they call the battlefield triangle, referring to different forms of aim assist. They said, generally, controller players felt like infantry versus infantry combat felt pretty solid, but when they entered a vehicle, either as a tank driver, a helicopter pilot, you name it, and they were fighting against another vehicle, which is a huge part of Battlefield, or they were a gunner on a tank using a 50 cal to hit infantry, there was no aim assist in previous Battlefield games. And they felt that, so a lot of players, including myself when I played, would switch to a keyboard and mouse for that. They would think, hey, we're not getting any assistance from controller, we might as well switch inputs. And they really tried to solve that with Battlefield 6. So with Battlefield 6, another change they've made here is they've added aim assist to vehicle combat where it wasn't previously present. Now, they did say they worked on unique parameters and settings and tunings when it comes to aim assist, whether that's versus infantry or vehicles. But basically what they were looking for is just better balance in all situations, so you don't feel like, okay, I'm in a vehicle, so now I'm better off with a mouse and keyboard, or now I'm on foot, I'm better off with a controller, or vice versa, whatever it would be. They want it to feel good on all inputs. And at least on paper, that sounds great. Also, my experience throughout the beta, I will say I didn't play a whole lot in vehicles, especially aerial vehicles, so I can't really comment too much on how the aim assist felt there. But it felt very normal and natural in tanks at least. And as I said earlier, on foot with infantry combat, that also felt like it was in a pretty good spot in the beta, although I'm not too sure how well it's going to be balanced directly against mouse and keyboard users. I think based on what I was seeing, there's definitely a lot more potential for mouse and keyboard players to have significantly better aim, but it's not like everybody on mouse and keyboard will be able to do that. And without strict SBMM present, I think that's fine. I'm quite confident with my aim on controller, and I feel like I could generally outgun the average mouse and keyboard player out there just fine. It's just when I run into a very good mouse and keyboard player, there's probably not going to be a whole lot I can do aiming-wise to reliably compete with them. Now, of course, those are just my basic impressions looking back to the beta. Keeping in mind that already feels like ages ago that we played the beta, so that feel isn't really fresh in my mind at the moment. So I am looking forward to the full launch of the game to get my hands on things again, to maybe give an updated opinion on this now that we know a little bit more about how their aim assist system works. But that's pretty much it, and this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First off, how are you guys feeling about the fact that we won't have console-only crossplay like they previously stated we would? And second, how are you feeling about aim assist as they've described it in this interview, as well as if you played the beta on a controller, what was your experience like with aim assist? Do you guys think it was balanced quite well? Do you think it was too weak, too powerful? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.